Folks, we're 8 days away from Election Day. Voters all across the country will be deciding a number of candidates who will be leading them in local, state, and national elections. Of course, most of the attention has been focused on U.S. Senate races, also on U.S. House races, and, of course, critical gubernatorial races in Maryland, Florida, and Georgia. And, of course, we also have been covering folks who are running for DA as well as other positions, but it was really important, a lot of the constitutional amendments. I was in North Carolina on yesterday for a Get Out the Vote effort, and Republicans there have 6 constitutional amendments, and they say could really change that state. Civil rights organizations, they want folks to vote no on all 6 of those because they want to essentially put voter suppression in the North Carolina state constitution. But a lot of the focus was happening in Florida, where there is an initiative on the ballot that will restore the voting rights to formerly incarcerated. Upwards of 1.6 million people could be affected. But here's the key. It has to pass by at least 60% in Florida to change the state constitution. Of course, Sheena Mead, we had her on about a few weeks ago, and the first polling data came out showing it is polling at around 72%, about 88% among Democrats, 59% among Republicans. And so it's looking real good, but as a poll, what really counts, what actually happens. Well, of course, we're here in D.C., where folks are making phone calls to the Sunshine State, encouraging folks to vote. So joining us right now is Melanie Campbell, National Coalition of Black Civic Participation, and also Clayola Brown, Phillip Randolph Institute. She's the president. So how y'all doing?
Doing great, Roland.
So the initiative in Florida, I think, is totally different what we've seen before, because typically what happens is we've seen lawsuits, but in this case you have African Americans who are leading an effort to change the state constitution, and this could really upend and change that state if it passes, to have 1.6 billion people having the right to vote. If you're a Republican running in that state, if you all of a sudden want to run on law and order, you might have a problem.
Oh yeah, I just left Florida. You know, I'm a native Floridian from Mims, Florida, so I was able to go home and get on the Let My People Vote bus tour, get out the vote bus tour all throughout Brevard County, and to tell you, the folks are fired up. But you mentioned it when you first started, that 60% threshold. We need folks to know. That's why we're here making these phone calls. I'm so glad Clayola partnered with us, because you've got to, it's not 50 plus 1. People say, oh, this has got to get a majority. No, 60%. And I don't believe polls. And so everybody down there is really fired up and pushing. So we need everybody, even though it's not too late to join a phone bank. You can do it virtually. You know, we're doing it here in Washington, D.C. We have 30 folks over there at AFL-CIO at Clayola's office. We're really pushing to make sure that everybody knows that everybody can make a difference. And the thing is, if this passes in Florida, it's like folks are saying, it's bigger than Florida. It really changes the dynamic. We know 4 states, as you shared with folks before, are impacted by these kind of really tough, unnecessary laws that were really put on the books to make sure black folks weren't able to utilize our political power. So we need everybody just to push this thing through across the finish line.
Clayola, how many folks are y'all trying to call?
We are calling everybody that answers the daggone phone. We've got predictive dialing that's going on right now, and our folks are on the ground as well. We're going not just to the big cities, but we're in Okeechobee, Lake City. We are all over the state of Florida hanging signs. Even the bail bondsmen are letting us hang the signs up on their buildings, because you meet 2 people and one of them knows somebody who's been incarcerated. Talk to the other one and they have somebody else that they might acknowledge that they know that needs the right restored. So it's an issue that hits the community hard. We know what the history has been. Our folks have been going to jail for stuff they didn't do for a very long time, and they are sick of it. And this time with this initiative, they are anxious and willing to work to make sure that they get a chance to vote.
And Roland, this is it's 13 amendments on the ballot in Florida, right? And we tell folks to vote yes on 4 and no more, because a lot of them are really bundled up together. If you ever heard such a thing, if you vote, you got a couple of those ballot initiatives that if you got 3 things in it, and you have to, and you might like one, but there's 3 things in it. Right? This particular ballot was put on the ballot by the people. The rest of them are done through other kinds of means. But the people put this on the ballot because they got the petitions and did all and went through all of the court cases. And so this is a people's amendment. The people of Florida wanted it on there, and so but we got, like I say, 60%. We got to push. We got to push to across the finish line.
And when you say the people, Desmond Meade
Yes.
and Sheena Meade, they've been
Yes.
very involved in this. Of course, Desmond served time in prison, and for him, not only do they not have the right to vote in Florida, in his case, he got out, got his law degree, but you can't actually even get a license to be able to work.
And look, this has been going on for over 10 years. It took 10 years to get this.
To even get it on the ballot.
When he walked in my office, Solange Benton with our Florida Coalition on Black Civic Participation introduced us, and so this thing has been going on for 10 years. It didn't just pop up, and so the ability for this to change lives is real. We were in the barbershop in Titusville, Florida, where I was from, and the brothers having conversations in the barbershop, really saying, and many people inside that barbershop cannot vote, and they understand how important it is, and that was the kind of conversation. So the kind of barbershop talk you're hearing, we were out in the park talking to folks who were, in their 80s, and being able to understand how important it is. And Roland, this is, and you know how hard it is to get folks to vote sometimes. In the days that I was on the ground, I did not run into one person who said, I don't know why I need to vote.
That's right.
I didn't run into one person who said this wasn't a good idea. And that's not normal, in the normal course of things. So this is something really different happening here. And so we were really excited. And in a couple of days, we're going right back down to Florida and help. And if you can't physically come, like I said, you can go to Second Chance, you go to Florida Rights Restoration Coalition and actually sign up to do it from your home. And just a lot of people did that when President Obama ran. People were making phone calls. That's what this is. This is the kind of movement this is.
Clayola, one of the things that when I talked to Desmond and Sheena last time we chatted, is that, again, people have to understand white folks in Florida who don't have the right to vote. And so they've been able to see sort of that cross, and also being able to reach different communities to get them to understand that or how critical this measure is.
Well, you're right on point, because it's not just our community. Even though our community has been impacted the most, when our folks have been hitting the ground and talking to folks, it's everybody who will even stop and say, what did you say about restoring the rights? In the grocery store, at the beauty shop, in the communities of all colors, where this particular piece of legislation keeps so many people from the polls. And they're tricky in Florida. Now, I know that's your state, Melanie. I'm from South Carolina, so it's just as bad sometimes. But on this issue, it has crossed the color line, because so many folks have served time that did not commit the crime. But more than that, they're wanting to get in to make the change. And I think this time it's going to work.
They also have been very much involved in getting social justice folks involved. I know John Legend has been down there.
Yes.
And
I connected Boozy with them as well, other artists as well, because several of them have served time and can't vote.
Absolutely.
And this has been a real coalition, and you've been really helpful, throughout all of this. And I was down in Florida, in Orlando. Michael Baisden was out there pushing the issue. The AME Church has been big. This
fraternal
phone
organizations
bank that we're doing
too.
together is a coalition effort. APRI and Coalition, Urban League, the sororities. It's a mix of folks that have joined together, and folks that just continue to push this thing. So we got 8 days.
All right, and again, for folks who don't know, so this is one of the signs here. They have, of course, vote yes for 4 Second Chance, hashtag yes on 4. And if you go to secondchancesfl.org to get more information as well. And again, they're not taking anything for granted.
That's right.
Because again, requires 60% of the folks voting for it in order to change the state constitution. Last question for both of you. We have the initiative, of course, is also on the ballot in Michigan. That when it comes to gerrymandering, I do believe that if this measure is successful and it passes, then it is going to cause progressives to wake the hell up and
Yeah.
to realize what conservatives have always done, use ballot measures to change things. And so imagine then, I keep making the point to all these folks out, these progressive billionaires. Look, you got Alicia Reese sitting there in Ohio who's been trying to get that Bill of Rights passed
That's right.
to put the right to vote in the Constitution. Also, other states that also could be looking at restoring folks who are formerly incarcerated. It may not take them 10 years.
Right,
They may be able to get enough signatures to have it on the ballot in 2020. If that's the case, you might see this spread like wildfire across the country, because once it's enshrined in the state constitution,
Then,
legislature can't take it out.
That's right.
That's right.
That's
That's
right.
right.
And you have done such a good job of making the issues clear after people have spoken about it. So for what you've done, my brother, thank you. Because people are watching and they're repeating what you say as far as explanations across the country, not just in Florida, but across the country. What you're doing is important. What your show does is important. So I wanted to thank you personally.
I appreciate it. And so again, folks, in Florida, number 4, vote yes on 4. I will be watching what happens. And here's a piece: they're making phone calls, obviously, but look, a lot of y'all have folks who are from Florida, live in Florida. You got relatives in Florida, and so you can call them, you can text
That's
them,
right.
do the
That's
exact same thing as well.
yeah. And we say yes on 4 and no more.
That's right.
All
That's right.
Melanie Clayola, we really appreciate it. Thank you so
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you,
Don't keep making
Roland.
the phone calls.